Hey guys, welcome to the Positive Experience podcast, where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly in living your best life. Today's segment is on the Hard Slog, where we shine the light on small local businesses. Hey guys, how you going? My name's Leki Sisfa. I'm the host of the Positive Experience podcast. And today's a segment called the Hard Slog, where we're shining the light on small local businesses doing great work in our communities. Today I've got Chris and Rochell Aho from Iron Armour. Howdy guys.
Hey, Leki.
Hey. Yes, and look, we're all very nervous, so bear with us as we're getting this out. This is an informal chat, and we'd like to dive in deeper into the great work that Chris, Rochell, and the team are doing. So, guys, the entree will begin with just understanding a little bit of the backstory. We'll get to Iron Armour, absolutely. But let's start with where you were, ladies first, Chris, so with Rochell, maybe where you were born and just give us a little snapshot of your childhood.
Okay, cool. So I was born in the Philippines, and then when I was one, my parents, we moved to Sydney, raised there till I was about, until we met, yeah. And went to school there, lived in the ghetto area, so proud Westie.
Out west? Okay.
Out west, yep, in Macfields. But yeah, so, and then, sorry, I did that. But yes, and then when we met, and then we moved to Melbourne. So that's me, where I'm from.
Cool. So born in the Phils, raised in Sydney.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Chris?
Born in New Zealand. Stayed there till I was about 20. Okay. Then moved over to Sydney, age of 21. Just for some football or rugby opportunities. And then I met Rochell 2 years after that at church.
Okay, so you were about 23?
Yeah, about 23, yeah.
Okay, so both spring chickens, both men in Sydney, out in the west somewhere, which is awesome. So, Chris and Rochell are personal friends, and so I know the home situation. So give us a little bit of a snapshot on, the family, and how it is, say, home-wise. How many kids, that sort of thing.
We have 3 beautiful kids. My oldest daughter is Carla. Our oldest daughter is Carla. She's 10. And our second daughter is Eleanor. She's 5 years old.
Okay.
And our youngest is our son, is Lay. So he's turning 3 this year.
Uh-huh.
And so the home environment, it's quite fun. We love to spend time with our kids and we love to chat with them. We always make sure that we enjoy our time together, no matter what day it is or time of the day. So
awesome, cool. Thanks for that. So, bit of did you know? The first time I actually met Chris was let's take a step back. In Melbourne, there's 2 rugby outfits. There's the purple team, and they're very popular, Melbourne Storm, and the other team's called the Melbourne Rebels. And the very first professional game they played against, and you can fact check this, was, I'm pretty sure it was Tonga A. And Tonga A was, so this is 2011, and there was a strapping, hulking number 8, and his name was Chris Aho. And I happened to be the physio for the team, but do you remember that time? I'm pretty sure it was 2011.
Yeah, I remember that time. Like you, clearly, I just I saw the lift open and I saw the skux guy come out with glasses, and it was you, man. But yeah, I remember that time, and I enjoyed that time, and it was good to connect with you then, and still awesome that we can still connect after these many years.
Absolutely. So that was 2011. It's currently 2020, so that's 9 years and much longer to go. So in this sort of time, you're also looking to work in Melbourne, so you moved from Sydney to Melbourne, guys. Yes. So give me an idea of what the situation looked like work-wise before Iron Armour came on board.
Yeah, so we moved here. We had our house that we were, fortunate to have a mortgage for, and I found work pretty much soon. Doing corporate. I started doing call center, but moved my way up, doing project managing and admin sort of stuff. And Chris started. Oh, do you want to do your one? Yeah. Yeah. Talking for you.
Yeah. I moved down with a background in youth work. So I used to work for Mission Australia as a program coordinator in Sydney, in the Western Sydney, working with kids that were disengaged from school. So I ran a program there to empower them, encourage them to, give life a go and, learn from their setbacks and turn them into comebacks and all that. So came down with that experience, and unfortunately came to Melbourne and couldn't even get any youth work. I think I got one job working in youth, but it was only casual. So I had to go and do the hard slog and go into the containers and do a year of containers.
Yeah, wow.
Down in Bev Chain on Leaks Road. So, yeah, there was a bit of a hard slog those days.
Yeah.
But you learn from it, and it just drives you to be better, and to be at your full potential. So, yeah, that was always motivating.
Yep. In that time too, I also, being involved in the rugby community in Victoria, I also understood that you're doing some developmental sort of officer work for Vic Rugby, So I think that, to me, outside looking in, that seems like it may have been the seed where an idea grew. So maybe could you bridge that time as a DO with Vic Rugby to perhaps how Iron Armour came about?
Yeah, no, definitely. So I was working in the containers, and a good friend of mine, Tia Suamai, he was already working for the VRU, and he said to apply for a position. And so I applied for it, and I think it was for it was a different position that I was applying for. But then when I was at the interview, the boss came in and said, "Look, we want you to do development officer. We think you'll fit this role, working with young people, empowering them and all of that." So that's how I got into to being a DO, and I did that role for 3 years. Okay. Mainly looking after the southeast of Melbourne, all the schools and clubs and plays out those ways, and got the opportunity as well to become the Melbourne Rebels chaplain as well.
Wow.
So that was an awesome opportunity, and just to rub shoulders with those guys, and at the same time building a network.
Yep.
And when I was in Sydney, I was already working with young athletes there, but nothing on the scale of what Iron Armour is now. And
Cool.
so when I come to Melbourne, I think it was just God just putting things together.
Yep.
And then, started working at the Rebels and all of that, VRU, and then, met Marcel after, 12 years, because we used to go to school together.
Yeah.
And then we were in an academy as well back in at our school, which was St. Paul's College.
Okay.
And then, we met again, and we got talking, and we had the same vision, same dream.
Yep.
And that's where it all kick-started.
So that is a perfect transition to the main passion that you're driving now. So you've given us, we understand now the journey that you guys have taken up until the seedling called Iron Armour. So let's dive into that now and talk a bit about how you had an idea and how it implemented. One thing that sort of resonates with me is this, going from the garage to global. That sounds really cool, but underneath all that is a lot of hard work and sacrifice.
Yeah.
So what gets you out of the day? What's your main passion at the minute? This could be something you can answer together or individually, because I'm sure you have different ideas on it. But for me, that's really insightful.
I think we actually talked about this at the back end of last year, like the why behind what we do.
Yep.
And it just became clear for us that our heart is to add value to people. And it's not about the money, although money helps to keep things sustainable. But we first put people first.
Yep.
And that's our heart. So our drive every day is add value to people, add value to our kids, add value to our family, add value to those that we get to journey with in the community. And that's what drives us. And by doing that, we have to make sure that we're adding value to ourselves.
Yeah.
Through studying, through looking after our health, and through marriage, like being able to understand each other and stuff like that. Because no one knows me better than my wife.
Yeah.
And no one knows her better than me. And so we first get in check with our relationship with God first, because faith is a big thing for us as well. And then we each other, and then that flows on to our kids.
Yeah.
And so adding value. What do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, the Bible says to love God and no other God, and then to love people as you love yourself. So that's our biggest thing. We don't do whatever we do just to help ourselves. We've always got, people in mind, a team in mind, our kids in mind, like what Chris was saying. And you can have all the blessings in the world, but if you don't do anything with it, then it just remains stagnant. So you just got to continue to share what you got. And I think that's a big thing I learned of Chris. He's always a sharer.
Yeah.
All my shoes all gone.
You can never get
all the fresh kids go.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, no, it's just that love for people.
Perfect. And that moves on because, you know, I can sense here that you guys are a dynamic duo. You work well together as a unit. You know, individually, we all need to work on our strengths and weaknesses, absolutely. Then you combine together like Voltron and you become even stronger.
Voltron.
Then you add the other guys. That's a timestamp for our ages.
Yeah,
you know, it might be Transformers now. But you form like Voltron, you know, you two enhance each other. Then you have your other friends and founders as well with Emma and Marcel, you know, and you become even stronger. So based off that, I think it's a good segue into how you best coordinate, you know, this initiative. Trying to drive Iron Armour, you need to, it's time out of your day, you know, you have families, you know, you got other things too that we can all understand, but you're also driving this big machine, you know, that has visions for other things too, which is awesome. So how does it look like throwing ideas up on the board with meetings and just trying to squeeze things in?
Yeah.
You know, what does that look like?
I think, so each of us, we have our own strengths, and, you know, we've had to learn that over the last, how many years?
8 years.
Yeah, 8 years. And then working to those strengths. Like, we used to kind of cross over, and it was kind of double handling. But now, just like with time wise, you know, you've got to be wise with your time. Just playing to those strengths and making sure that, hey, okay, trusting each other with that. Because you can kind of, you know, when you're still getting to know each other, you can kind of like look at what the other person's doing. But then as you grow in unity, it's like, yeah, I trust them. You know, they're amazing and they're great at what they do. And then growing together in that, you know, because we're always got to keep learning and evolving. So yeah, we've grown as a team, but making sure we value our time and our family first and foremost before what we do on the other side.
Very good answer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I think it's really important that you have those. The trust is one thing, and then you know you start to develop some systems in place, and then you know away you go. It's quite repeatable. Yeah. So, okay, awesome. We have an understanding of the passions that are driving you guys and how you get about it. How about if we share a story? If there was you know a particular challenge within Iron Armour that you've maybe early days, you know, maybe it was just trying to find a space so that you can go in and you know share some stories or share an initiative. Is there or any personal injuries? Maybe Chris, you know, on the rugby field. So yeah, could you share a personal war story perhaps, and then maybe a lesson you drew from that?
Yeah, there's plenty, Licky, because at the moment I find it hard to walk it. But if I'm talking about an injury, I think it would be when I snapped my arm, and that was against playing for Tonga A in Fiji, against Fiji.
Yeah.
And then having a young family at that time, being away for 6 weeks on minimal pay with a mortgage.
Yeah.
You know, having that injury, plus thinking of my wife working, that took a real big toll. And so when I came back, I had to try and get myself on the field as fast as I could.
Yeah.
And then I did. But then I actually had to, because I was getting a bit older, you know, that injury taught me that, you know, time is going, and I had to start thinking about what else I could do after rugby. And then I've always had a passion to help people. And then that's when I started looking at helping young people off the field or people in general off the field with my experiences of having setbacks and learning how to deal with that and turning that into comebacks. So, yeah, that was a war story. I still got the scars for it as well.
Oh, yeah. Some people like scars.
Yeah, big scar there, and got a metal plate in there, so when I walk through the airport, you know, it beeps and that, but I tell them, no, more good. Just
you're part RoboCop now.
Yeah, so yeah, I learned a lot of lessons from that.
You know, it's interesting. Do you think you would have got to the end goal if it wasn't for the injury? Like, do you think you would have sort of continued on for a little bit longer, but then the injury forced you to actually have a hard look at yourself and then think, man, you know, I've got to switch it up, otherwise things aren't going to happen?
I think, you know, there comes a time, like, you know, when you... Because I was thinking I was 27.
Yep.
So I was chasing that dream all the way up to that age. And so there's a time where it comes a time where you kind of know when your body's wanting to just, you know, you can't go in any further because they started, you know, bringing players a lot younger.
Yeah.
And so I was having to compete with a lot of young players who were still injury-free. And I think it was just accepting that I've gone as far as I could and be happy with that. But then taking the biggest lessons and using that to empower the next generation so that they can go all the way. Yep. And so it was just accepting that, I wasn't going to go all the way.
Yeah.
But, still being able to play for Tonga A and having played New Zealand schoolboys when I was younger, and winning a Junior World Cup when I was 19 with New Zealand. And that for me, I was like, man, if this is all that God had for me, and if my life or my career will be a sacrifice to help young people from what they can learn from my life, then I'll do it again.
Yep.
And that's so, yeah.
Awesome message there in that story, isn't it? Jeepers. So thank you for sharing that. I think the other interesting too would be to get some insight from the other half of the dynamic duo here. So Rochell, maybe it may
The boss.
I've got one of those as well. So with Rochell, the thing may not be like a health issue like an injury, but perhaps running something like Iron Armour, what would you say has been a setback, or maybe in trying to drive this thing that has been a learning process for you? So it may perceive to be a challenge, may not be a setback, but a challenge that you've since overcome.
Yeah. For anyone that runs their own business, people perceive, you've got all the money in the world, but I think a major challenge is, when you have your 9-to-5 job, you have your money secure, it's going to come in week by week. But when you're running your own organisation, if you're not working hard, who else is going to do the job?
Absolutely.
So that's a massive challenge. And also raising children, having babies throughout, the growth of Iron Armour. Mm-hmm. All of those challenges have created such a resilience in us and our team. Like, nothing surprises us anymore.
I've got no more hair.
Yep, and I've got grey hairs just hidden by this. The challenges are there, but they've been awesome in building our resilience because they're going to continue to come.
Yeah, that's right.
And yes, as we grow, there's going to be different sets of challenges. That's what's helped us continue to carry on.
That's right. And I know you guys speak a lot about, making sure you know your why and understanding why you do things, because it helps push through when it's a hard slog.
That's right.
Which is something that maybe not many people are chosen for, because you can flame out after a couple of years, but 8 years, 9 years along, still going very strong. Doesn't look like it's going to be slowing down anytime soon. No. So, I have to congratulate you guys on that. Congratulations. So, moving along to the dessert part of the menu today is some quickfire questions. Okay, So the whole premise of the Positive Experience podcast is to share the good, the bad, and the ugly in living your best life. So to give an example, good things may be things that you're grateful that you currently have. Okay, maybe material things. It could be a skill that you have. It could be tangible, intangible, whatever that means to you. So in terms of what's good, have a think about what that may be to you guys individually. In terms of bad, something is bad. What I mean by that is if I look at Chris and Rochell and they're preaching at their church and they're really well spoken, public speakers. And for me personally, I'd love to be a better public speaker. So I would love to have that skill badly. So that's what I mean by bad. Okay. And the last thing is ugly. And what I mean by ugly is, on Instagram, you might find, you've got this pretty photo that you see, and, people may not see the hard slog that female athlete had to get the strong body. Or, somebody had to get up early and prepare their meals, and then that enabled them to get the body of their dreams, So I think we should really be better as people to celebrate the things that we have. Because sometimes when you have that negative self-talk, that one little thing is the thing that knocks you over, but you have so many blessings and so many good things. You know what I mean? So I think we should just proportionate that evenly. So I guess what I'm trying to get to is, guys, what's something good, something bad, and something ugly that you're working on? Okay? Chris, I'll start with you, mate. Throw you under the bus there. So something good, something that you're happy to have. It could be your health. You could wake up and be able to walk, Yeah. Maybe you have family relatives that just recently, the bushfires in Australia recently. There's some dramas in China at the moment. Kobe Bryant, with his daughter. Crazy. You just never know, So I think we should just all be really grateful and just take those positive experiences, because it may be the last experience that you have with your loved ones, So not to get too sad, I think we should celebrate, but I think let Kobe be, the person that we try and embody as best we can.
Yeah, that's right.
Black Mamba.
Mamba, man. For me, something I've always been grateful for that's been good in my life through every season that I've been through, And I'm not just talking about the good seasons, but the very dark seasons as well, is my faith. That's been a big part of my life, and it's helped carry me through the darkest times. It keeps reminding me of my why, that I wasn't born just to stand in a corner or just breathe in this air, but born to be someone to do something. And so that's something good in my life, and then that flows on to health. In the past years, I struggled with health a bit. I used to get really bad gout, and that used to kind of keep me, stagnant and not moving. But the last 2 years, being reminded of my why, it really triggered something in me and kind of took me back to my years as an athlete. And now now that same mindset's back, but it's now for the quality of life, for my family. That's another thing that I'm really grateful for my family, my kids, but also for what I do. Because if I'm out there promoting winning life, because that's the main message of Iron Armour, is about winning life. If I'm out there promoting that and talking about that, then that needs to be a revelation in my life. And I need to be leading from the front. And so, I'm just grateful. Those are things that are good in my life, and that's driving me every day. Something bad?
Yep.
No,
I think the bad there was probably the health thing.
Yeah.
I would agree. Like if there's something maybe, under wraps, you're working on a project here for something, and ideally you'd like to get to the finish line, which is the pretty thing.
Yeah.
So what's something that you're down in the weeds working on? What's in the lab? What's the mad scientist working on?
Like for health or for...
It could be general.
General?
Yeah. Maybe have a think about it, Chris.
I'll think about it. Yeah.
Sure. So, Rochelle, good and bad. So something that you're really grateful for that you have at the minute, and something that you'd like to improve on is what I mean by bad.
Awesome. So really grateful for my family. I mean, obviously, yes, definitely faith. I think he covered that for both of us.
Oh, yeah.
But family, my children, of course, being a mum, young mum, but also I'm still young.
Yeah.
But no. I was just thinking our family, like our immediate family, like our parents and our siblings, because we wouldn't been able to do what we do with Iron Armour without them, and we always are so grateful, and we openly share that with them. Because literally, like, families know, like, when you're running a business, it's hard to just do what you got to do. Like, if you have mum and dad there to be able to say, hey, mum, dad, can you take the kids here and there? And they love our kids just as much. So, and we don't have that feeling of guilt. You still do, but you know that they're with loved ones that love them so much, just like you do. So we're really grateful for family.
Absolutely. So big shout out to the families. We love you. We love you. And I guess I know that the ugly one's a bit of a tough one, but maybe it could be like a team ugly thing. Like if there's something that you're working on to maybe drive into this year. Maybe there's a big goal here that you're working on this year. Is there a magic number on the scales perhaps? Or is there a...
magic number for family?
Oh, man.
Family numbers.
Like 10?
So I guess we'll press pause on the ugly thing. I know that's a bit of a tough one, but I guess heading down the bend and heading down the home stretch, tell us what's happening with Iron Armour this year. What's something that's coming up that you'd love the audience to learn about and to know about? Because I know the people that run Iron Armour, I know the initiatives, and I'm all down 100%. So tell us what's coming on.
We have a family fun day coming up as part of our fundraiser for our Europe tour. So we're heading over to Italy and Portugal on the 28th of March with our under-17s and under-19s rugby team. So the whole purpose behind that is giving our young athletes exposure to what it's like being at the top level, because we mentor them from 20 weeks that lead up into this tour. So it's a chance for them to outwork what they've learned on that scale. So we've got that coming up. We also have our New Breed Athletes Conference, and our theme for this year is Momentum. And that's coming up on the 21st of March, and more details will be up in regards to that. But we have a lineup of speakers, including yourself.
Oh,
that's going to be cool.
Yes, very excited.
So we're so excited for that, and we've been running that now for 6 years now. And the whole purpose about that is, the athletes, they train, and it's not just for athletes, but for their families as well, because we believe that everyone's an athlete, because life is the big game that we can't afford to lose. So we invite families, the kids, they come along. And the whole purpose behind that is about empowering everyone before the season starts, because we know that the season can be a hard slog.
Yeah.
Parents driving all the way across Melbourne to take their kids, and it's hard. But also the kids go through things as well, setbacks, non-selection. And so, we just use this conference kind of, give them tools to help to deal with their season. That's what's coming up for mine.
Yeah, and just our regular program we run all throughout the year.
Yeah.
We're finishing off our off season, but we also have our in season program during the winter time. So that runs for another 20 weeks as well.
Perfect. Yeah. And we'll have all that information attached to this podcast, and we can find on Iron Armour Academy at Iron Armour Academy. That's the handles.
Yep.
Very active. The guys are very active on Instagram and Facebook. So check them out. They got awesome programs, and that's us today, guys. I really appreciate your time. This has been a breaking in of sorts, and I'd appreciate a round two at some point. We'll come back and perhaps Chris will have hair at that time. Who knows? We'll have long dreadlocks.
Ricky, can I just say one thing as well?
Yeah, mate.
If that's all right. Just want to say thank you to all the families. They have supported us over the years. We wouldn't be where we are if it wasn't for their support. So if you're watching today, big, massive thank you. And just know our heart is to help everybody win life. And so just wanted to say thanks to everybody and thank you.
Yes.
No worries.
Thank you, Lecky and ProPhysio, for all that you do for Iron Armour. Honestly, you've just added another level to what we do. So thank you so much.
Been a blessing, bro.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate the shout out, guys. So that's the Positive Experience podcast, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Today's segment is the Hard Slog on small local businesses that are doing great work for our community. All right, catch up next time. See you guys.
That's good.